Hello, we are forging ahead with chapters 10, 11, 12, and 13 from Asem. I appreciate the messages. Thank you. Seems that you are appreciating the summaries and the effort. I hope it helps during this time where you can't go to school and you're sitting at home, just trying to stay in touch with all the work. So I'll try to keep these videos rolling, but please also help me by support me by getting the books. This is the book, Afrikaans met Simpel, Asem, and Gedigte. You can get it in a few ways. After lockdown, you can get it from CNA. If you want it now, you can get it from the ITSI website. You can also order 6 books from me directly. 6 is a minimum. You can obviously order more if you want. Just email me there. There's my WhatsApp. And please share this link on your WhatsApp status so that your friends also get to know about it. Or just tell your teacher. I'm sure you guys are on WhatsApp groups and so on. Excellent. Let's go on. So things really start happening now in chapter 10, 11, 12, and 13. Again, we start chapter 13 with this storm wind that is pushing through, that is pumping. And I just said there, remember the symbolism of this wind. This is to symbolize his whole emotional, psychological state that he's in. It's a stormy situation with him and his father and his mother and his friends that they are facing. Again, it blew the whole night, so it doesn't bode well for the rest of the chapter. It's sort of a vooruitwysing. It's sort of a prediction of what's going to happen in the rest of the chapter. Paul's not at home. He left a note for Boris that Steph picked him up and they went somewhere. And then Boris sees this character, Philly. Okay, very interesting character later in the book. Very satisfying to see how things turn out between these two. I don't want to spoil too much, but you see, voor die rots river, the rocks on the beach, he sees a boy wearing his jeans and his jacket. Remember that when the red beach buggy broke down, they had to carry Boris' stuff the last little pathway to the house, and they left some of his stuff next to the road. So obviously Philly found the stuff and he hit a jackpot and he had a whole set of new clothes and things. Okay, so Boris gil for him, he shouts at him and asks him, where did you get those clothes? Waar kry jy daai klere? And the boy just runs away. Die seun hardloop weg. We'll meet him again later. Okay. Die seun verdwyn. He disappears. Tussen die klippe en die skeure, between the rocks and the crevices on the beach. He looks very comfortable, like he knows his way. Okay. This is important. So just after the boy disappears, he hears a dog, a yelping, or a hond wat chunk, okay, a dog crying for help. Okay, and he's like, did he hear it? Did he not hear it? He wasn't sure. He's like, no, it can't be. What would a dog be doing here? Okay, sort of, and then the story sort of goes on, but the dog comes up later again. As he's walking down, he meets, for the first time, he sees the beautiful Olga. Remember, Steph's girlfriend. He's seen her in the paintings in the house. He saw her sarong and her and her shoes in the red buggy, and she is lying in the sun, baking in the sun. She's standing naked with kaal lê in bak in die son. She has red hair, but this is a genuinely good-looking girl. Okay, as we'll find out, she's a little bit older than Boris. She's about 24, I think. Okay. Then she's standing there on the beach between the rocks and obviously thinking that it's completely private, yet Boris walking down. Sorry, it says Paul. It should be Boris. So Boris admires her body. He admires her naked body for a while, as a young boy would typically do, I think. And it was only when she screamed, so she was yelling and sitting up straight, that he realized that he was staring at her. He was like totally mesmerized by by this sudden sight of a naked girl on the beach. When he looks again, toe hy weer kyk, is sy skielik weg. Okay. Barry's dink sy sal beslis for Steph and Paul say. He's like, oh my goodness, she's gonna like now run up and tell Steph and Paul that he was stalking her and watching her turn naked. So he's quite stressed about it. However, toe hy terug by die huis kom, when she got back to the house, Olga was like lying on the sun chair there, in her rainbow bikini, which she'd obviously put back on, and like nothing had really happened. Steph and Paul was bekommerd. They were worried that he was gone for so long. Steph stel hulle mekaar voor, so Steph like wants to introduce them to each other, but Olga quickly says that they've already met. Okay, she doesn't lie. She says, no, we met down at the beach. Immediately, Steph was suspicious, obviously. He immediately wanted to know what she was wearing. And she very comfortably tells a lie. She says she was wearing exactly what she's wearing now, her bikini, and that's it. But while she's saying it, notice this, her eyes are teasing Boris. So she's a bit of a tease, she's a bit of a flirt, like quite a fun girl with a sense of humor, and obviously quite enjoyed the situation that made Boris so embarrassed. Paul then, he sort of saves the moment, die spanningsvolle oomblik. He says, by mentioning dat sy bakkie gekom het en dat die ligte weer werk en Barry sy foon kan laai. Okay, so there's some progress here in terms of things going well for Barry's. Paul's bakkie is back at least. Now they can have some transport and the lights are back on. He can charge his phone. Paul het die foon op sy bed gelos. Barry can find his phone on his bed where Paul left it, and the SIM card that was in the envelope. Remember that the sergeant, the blonde sergeant, she gave that envelope to Steph to give to Paul. Okay. Steph sê dat sy tasse wat hulle langs die pad gelos het weg is. Then he mentions, your luggage that we left next to the road, it's gone. It's gone. Barry was so upset, he sort of almost, he grabbed Steph by the chest and wanted to assault him there. But Steph was just like pushed him away like he wasn't even there. So obviously there's a big mismatch in size and strength there. Okay, so again, here are those little questions. These questions are not to cover all the content. These questions are to make you think about the book and some of the underlying meanings. Okay, just to get you thinking about what kind of questions they could ask in the tests and exams and the essays. Alright, so wat twee karakters ontmoet Barry's in hierdie hoofstuk? Which two characters does he meet? Wat geluid does he hear between the rocks? Hoe weet ons Barry's vind Olga aantreklik? How do we know that he finds her attractive? Why do you think Olga immediately admits that she already met Barry's? Okay, I would say there's two things there that I can think of, but I'll leave that for you. Hoekom dink jy wil Steph dadelik weet wat Olga aangehad het? Why's the first question that he asked? What were you wearing? What were you wearing when you met Barry's down on the beach? Okay, also just to make you think a little bit about the type of relationship that is happening here. Chapter 11. Barry's is nie gelukkig toe hy uitvind daar is nie cellphone sign. So he gets his phone back, but there's no signal. Paul said he must climb up the hill to get signal. He immediately wants to phone and he desperately still wants to smoke. Okay, Paul skipped net sy kop. He says, no, I'm not going to allow you. I'm not going to give you anything to smoke. So the withdrawal symptoms are still very, very strong. So, and we're in chapter 11 already, still struggling with that. Paul vra vir Barry's of Barry's eerder brandewijn. He says, maybe you want a shot of brandy. I can give you that. And he says to Barry's, I know that you broke the seal on the bottle. Okay, you open. You know when you open a bottle of brandy, well, you would know because you don't drink. But if you open the top, it cracks. Okay, so the seal breaks. And like when you open a wine bottle, some of those screw top wine bottles, the cheaper one. Once it's broken, it's broken. Okay, so interesting that Paul knew. So at some stage he must have checked on his bottle of brandy, which also says something about his state of mind. That is, every now and again he goes and checks whether his brandy is still there. Okay. Barry hardloop uit woede and anger. He runs to the rock, the rock level there by the sea. Okay. Barry's vra of Paul geweet het, hy is die skool se nommer 1 snelbouler. He's like angry at his dad, and the conversation goes along the route of, did you even know that I was the best fast bowler in the school? Barry's and he tries to throw a rock. Hy wil 'n klip tot in die see gooi, but he can't. On the other hand, Paul picks one up, and it gly gemakkelijk tot in die see, and he throws it into the sea quite easily. Barry's obviously quite weakened by his state, his physical state of withdrawal and that from the drugs. He hasn't trained or exercised in a long time. Toe hy moeg is om klippe in die see te probeer gooi, when he was tired throwing rocks in the sea, he asked Paul, why did you divorce my mom? He's pushing for questions, but as a reader we can sort of understand that he's not ready. He's so angry still. He's so bitter towards his dad that he won't be able to have this conversation properly. And Paul knows this. That's why he keeps putting it off. Paul beloof vir Barry dat hy vir hom sal vertel wanneer hulle albei gereed is. When they're both ready, we will sit down and we will talk about it. But first, I think he realizes Barry needs to calm down. He needs to get rid of that anger. He needs to get away from the withdrawal symptoms of the drugs. And he has still so much desperation in his mind. So dit was nie omdat sy ma 'n ander verhouding gehad het nie. He does tell him that. Gives him that little bit of information. So so that could be a question, eh? What's the first information that Paul actually does give him? He said, well, I didn't divorce her because she had an affair with another man. Okay, so that could be an interesting question. A difficult question, eh? Okay, so but trust me. Yeah, so that could be a question there. What is the first bit of information that Paul was actually willing to give? And it was, as a first bit of information, that's quite neutral, it's quite good. But you can see the anger here. What does he do? He wedges his fists, he punches his fists into the loose ground, into the loose soil. And obviously with the little, I can imagine little shells and little broken piece of rocks and stuff, it cuts up his fists. And you can see his fists go white. You know, when you've taken off the skin, it goes all white. And who's there to look after him when he gets home? Olga. She drags him to the bathroom and puts some Dettol water in the basin, and she cleans him up. Okay. Barry then says he's sorry for the incident earlier on the rocks where he found her tanning, and then she's quite manipulative. She says, is he really sorry? And he says, no, he's not. He's actually not sorry. And then she says, sy's ook nie jammer nie. So there's some serious flirting going on between these two. Sorry about the squeaking. That's a hamster on its wheel. Okay. And they just had babies, so there's about 10 hamsters in there. She shows him what Olga does here. She shows him the inside of her palms. Okay. Why would she do that? Okay. She shows him letsels, scars. to show that she has tried to commit suicide. I see in Afrikaans they say now self-dood instead of self-moord. You can use both. I think it should be fine. But so these two have a lot in common as well. As we'll see, she's also been into drugs. So she's also had some psychological problems and issues and things. So, and they're obviously very, very attracted to each other. So this thing just escalates, this relationship between Olga and Boris. And as you can probably guess, it's going to lead to a big, either a climax or a crisis. But we'll see. Okay. Boris wys die wit letsels vir Paul. He shows Paul the white scars that he has on his knuckles. And he gives him some advice. He says, you must stop belittling yourself. Stop self-harming yourself. I think that's what he means. I don't think he really. What I can notice from Paul is that he doesn't really have the language or the ability to discuss emotion. And he says, stop belittling yourself. I don't think that's really probably an active description of what's happening, but that's how Paul sees it. Okay, but it makes him seem like an emotionally incompetent sort of character. That's just my feeling there. I hope I'm sure you'll agree with that. Barry said dit is hoe Paul hom laat voel. Goed vir niks. And Barry is quite sharp. He says, well, that's how you make me feel. You make me feel good for nothing. So I'm just going to throw something at this hamster. There we go. It was just a pen, that's fine. Okay. Paul gee vir hom 'n sakkie pink pille. He gives him a bag of pink pills. These are like, I had to go and check. So pink pain pills, they're probably something like Napocod pills, which is paracetamol and codeine. So codeine is quite like something nice to go onto when you're getting off drugs, like hard drugs, before you go off totally. His hand pains so badly through the night. It pains so erg deur die nag dat 'n klomp van die pink pille op een slag drink. He takes a whole lot of the pink pills all at once, just to get rid of the pain in his hands. Just after midnight, he decides he's going to phone Lizette. Okay, this was the one person that he really connected with and that really understood him when he was still in Joburg. And he does sort of hanker for her comfort and her advice. As he goes up the hill, he sees a little light down by the rocks. Okay, so he's going out to climb up the hill. He sees what's going on there on the rocks. He grabs an axe, okay, that Paul uses to chop the wood outside, and puts it down, and then he grabs like a log, and he runs down. By die see hoor hy weer die gechunk, and then he hears this dog again. Okay, so this is like a long, it would be later that evening on the same day. So this dog has been here on the beach for quite a while. And what it is it's a hond wat onder 'n rotsskeer vasgeskeer is. It's trapped in a crevice in the rocks there. And as the tide is coming in now or out, or the tide is rising, die water spoel oor hom. And it looks like a golden retriever. In fact, it is. Okay, so it's not just any dog, it's like a purebred dog. And die persoon met die liggie, which is Philly, by the way, he's sitting there on the rocks. He's got his little torch there, but he's not brave enough to go and try and save the dog. So Boris jumps in there, he runs in there, hy kry die hond uit, he gets the dog to safety, but as he puts the dog down, he slips, hy gly en kap sy kop teen 'n rots, he hits his head on a rock. Then a wave comes, die see spoel hom oor skerp rotse en skulpe, and then the sea washes him over those sharp rocks and those shells and things. then he starts, as he's struggling in the sea, you can see that Paul's coming down with the light. Die stroom draai en begin hom na die rotse toe stoot. Eventually the tide or the sea current, turns and pushes him towards the rock. Again, a little motif or a little theme that we can get out here. Boris is literally drowning here. However, he's also obviously figuratively drowning in his problems. Or we can say in another way, we can just say he's quite literally drowning in problems, drowning in his challenges that he is facing. Eventually, he washes up somewhere in a tidal pool, and Paul is able to rescue him there. So he almost died there. Okay, so he came close. He basically hit rock bottom, in a sense. However, as we know in life, rock bottom has a basement level. If you've ever hit rock bottom, you can go lower than that. Okay, it does happen. So just a few questions there. I see the video is getting a bit long, but read through those questions. Get your mates or your teacher to help you with those, because they will really get you to understand the book and just get down the basics and get down the details. Remember that every single detail is important. Okay, so nothing that I've got in the summary here you can leave out. Okay, the little bits that I could leave out, I did, but I promise you, I've seen detailed questions. You cannot leave anything out. Yeah, 12 and 13. Okay, 12. So Boris, hy skrik wakker voor Paul se stoof. He wakes up in front of the coal stove. Die hond lê langs hom onder 'n kombers. The dog's lying there under a blanket. Paul het hom uit die getijpoel gered. He saved him and put him in a warm bath. Okay. Hy onthou hoe Paul olie en room oor sy stikkende lyf gesmeer het. Paul rubbed oil and some kind of oil and cream over his broken body. The skin, he must be full of cuts and roasties. So what happened was Paul was quite restless at night. Then he went looking for Boris. And when he went down towards the beach, he could hear the dog barking. If it was not for the dog barking, he would never have found Boris in time. So Paul here is starting to show that he is there for Boris when he has a problem. Thing is back again. Shush. Sorry. Die hond is ook baie swak en beseer. The dog is also very weak and injured after it almost drowned. Boris obviously also, like the dog, there's a parallel, okay? He's also emotionally weak and emotionally quite sore. Paul sê dit is nie 'n rondloper hond nie, want sy kondisie is te goed. This is not just a stray dog, like a street dog or beach dog that you find in that area. Its condition is far too good. Hy het moontlik van 'n boot afgespoel en strand toe geswem. So the most likely scenario was that he washed up from a boat and he drowned. So Boris names the dog Jonah after the Bible character. Boris sal by 'n dokter moet kom sodat hy nie infeksie kry nie. He would have to get to a doctor. The dog's also in a very swak toestand, bad condition, and Boris has a lot of pain. Paul offers brandy for the pain. Brandy and painkillers will knock most things out. And Boris is like, please, I need some weed. I need some dacha. That'll really sort me out. Paul said he found his phone, Boris's phone on the rocks, and he had a missed call from Lizette. Okay. Obviously, she's also been trying, she doesn't know what's going on. Remember that Boris's mom never told Lizette that he couldn't say goodbye and that where he's going or anything. She just said, leave them alone. She gave them a false message and lied to them. Probably with good intentions, but quite harsh. Eh? So Boris gaan klim dadelik teen die heuwel uit om terug te bel. He climbs up the hill to go and find back, and he sees that there's a message from Nico. Okay, this the sergeant. Hy kom deur na Lizette. He comes through to Lizette. Finally, he can talk to her. Now, this is the first time, okay, that he is talking to her after the incident, the crash, okay. She was angry that he just disappeared without greeting, sonder om te groet. Vera het vir Lizette gesê dat Barry's haar nie in sy lewe wil hê nie. That was the big lie that Vera told, with good intentions, but probably didn't have the desired effect. Barry tries to ask Lizette for a sexy selfie. I think she's probably by this time started moving on anyway, even though they are okay. I don't want to spoil the rest of the book. Okay, hy sien ook dat hulle nie meer saam op haar profile photos. So that's the first sign to see, okay, you've changed your WhatsApp. We are not together on your profile photo, so that means something. So hy sê Theo's saak is uitgestel. Theo's case was extended until January. Okay, important. Hy vra of sy nog lief is vir hom, maar daar is net stilte. So when you ask her if she still loves him, there's just silence. So there's a few indications here that this romantic relationship is dying. Okay. Daarna bel hy sy ma, he phones his mom, and he's obviously wanting to know, why the heck did you tell Lizette that I don't want to talk to her? The mom's reply was, I want all three of them out of your life. These are bad friends. This is what happens when you have the wrong friends, etc. And his mom lets him know that the traffic officer is still in a critical condition. When he gets home, things get worse, unfortunately. This is a real chapter of absolute sort of crisis. Okay. When I said, remember, rock bottom has a basement. He's about to hit one of those basements. Terug by die huis sit Paul met 'n pistool. Paul sitting there with his pistol. He wants to shoot the dog. He wants to put the dog out of its misery. Jonah is besig om stadig en pynlik te vrek. Barry's weier. He's like, no, you're not shooting the dog. Jonah se lewe hang in die weegskaal. His life hangs in the balance. Net soos Paul en Barry se verhouding and their future hang in the balance. So there's that dog's life. Okay, is the dog going to die? Is the dog going to live? Is Paul and Barry, is their relationship going to die? Or is this going to work out? Or is it going to continue to improve? So again, these little mini parallels that play off in the book. I enjoy that sort of thing. I think it's a very well written book in that sense. Trust me, the past IB books have been, some of them have been extremely lackluster, if I can put it that way. So there's some questions. Have a good look at the questions. That'll really make you understand. Some of them are interpretation questions. So you have to interpret. You have to think about if you think about the content, then it's going to stick in your memory, and you'll be fine. Okay, let's finish off with chapter 13. Let's see, we've been going for 29 minutes already. Okay, let's go a little bit faster. Barry's full, so he wants to take Jonah to the veearts where Humansdorp, and he said he would pay himself. Paul said, listen, I'll buy you another dog. Let's just put this dog out of his misery. I'll buy you another dog. But this is obviously going to make him so angry, because 12 years ago, Paul also promised Barry's that he would buy him a dog, and he never did. He disappeared. Okay, and he also used that as an excuse. He told his friends, "Oh, my dad left because he's gone to a different town to look for a dog." On his way to the vet, Boris asks Paul if Steph also lives like a squatter on his ground. Paul is surprised that Boris weet dat hy en Steph op groot geword het. Remember, Steph told him this. He told Boris this when they were driving down in the beach buggy. He said, "Listen, you're not going to make trouble. We grew up together." And he said Paul was also abused when he was a child. That's why he came to live with us. So Paul didn't even know that Boris knew that. Boris vra hom ook oor die letsels op sy vuiste. So he asks Paul, "Why do you have scars on your fists and your face?" But Paul can't answer that yet. So here we touch on that theme of, I just say die thema van oor erflike aggressie, the theme of inherited aggression that comes out. What do we inherit from our parents? What do we learn? Is it that whole nature versus nurture thing that I'm sure you'll discuss a little bit in class. They arrive at the vet, Greta Hanneken. You need to know the name. She says immediately he has what? You must learn these words. Inwendige beserings, internal injuries. And it would cost how much? Would it cost? They could ask that. 5,000 to 6,000 rand. And then there's no guarantee, of course. Okay. And 2,000 rand as a deposit before I even touch the dog. Okay, they drive to the bank. Boris draws. How much? 1,500. What does he sell? And where does he sell it? Wolfie's pawn shop. He sells his Oakleys and his watch for 500. That could be a question. You need to know that. Greta verduidelik dat hy 'n Labrador Golden Retriever mengsel is. So the dog is a bit of a mix. Okay. Golden Labrador Retriever. Okay, not Retriever. Retriever, eh? Jeez. I think that's how you spell Retriever. Hulle is geteel om bote in hawe aan toue te trek. So you must know this as well. What were they bred for? To pull boats in the harbor. Okay, by a rope. Hulle is sterk swimmers, they are strong swimmers, and they have a waterproof fur. And they can endure cold water for hours. They are good family dogs and good guide dogs. Okay, for blind people. But Paul wil Boris dokter toe vat en vir hom vars groente en vrugte koop. He needs to strengthen him up, take him to the doctor, buy him some fresh stuff. Boris insists, hy dring aan dat Paul met die hoofstal aflaai, drop me off in the main road. Hy sien dat die skoenhandelaar 'n lang Nigeriër dagga aan 'n meisie verkoop. There's a dagga deal going on, and obviously his eyes are quite trained for these sort of things. But for some reason his tongue feels dumb in his mouth, and he rather goes and buys a lead for Jonah. So you can see the good influence that this dog already has on Boris. Toe hulle terugry, sê Paul dat Boris baie bleek lyk. He says, "You look very pale. You must get something for the shock." Boris says, obviously again, tries, and he says, all he needs to do is smoke, then you'll feel better. Paul sê dat Boris se plaas erf. He says, "You are inheriting my farm, my property, when I die." Boris is not particularly interested. He asks Paul why he didn't finish studying. He just said that, and this is his answer, you need to know this, that painting, beeldhouw, so sculpting and painting, and Seerplaas makes him happier. Boris asks another inflammatory sort of direct question, like he likes to do with Paul. He likes to stir the pot. He says, so did your alcoholism, your problem with alcohol, your drinking, also chase away your second wife? Paul just said that didn't work out, and that he only has one soulmate, or he's only ever had one soulmate. Okay, so we can sort of guess that it's Boris's mom, it's Vera. Okay, but we're not 100% sure here, but 90% sure. So that's important. Okay, they could ask you, who do you think this is and why? Okay, so that's the sort of thing you need to be able to answer to pass this. Terug by Seeplaas, so Bryce phones his mom and says, listen, I need money, I've got this dog. She says, no, not for stray dogs. So there was an opportunity for Vera to show some affection, show love. I think it's quite a weak moment for Vera in the book, that she chooses not to help him out here. She obviously could have thought that maybe what he needs to get over all his nonsense is a dog to help him. Sy ma beskuldig hom dat hy meer omgee oor die hond as die verkeersman. And his mom is sort of also says hurtful things, you know. She says, you care more about the dog than you care about the police officer that is dying. And to be honest, Boris really did forget about the policeman. Okay. Paul sê vir sy ma dat Paul nog oor haar tree. Sorry, Boris says to his mom, listen, Paul is still upset about you. He didn't quite say to her that he said that you were his soulmate, but he still mourns you. Okay. Again, there's a message from Nico that says he must be strong, and that her stomach was also sick from what? Where? Okay, you must know from what? From the pie. Don't Melissa went. Okay, that's how well you must know the content. He tries to phone Lizette. This time she's not available. Okay, we could have guessed that. Hey, we could have seen. We sort of got the feeling that that relationship was dying off. This is important. I'll make this yellow. Hy probeer Floris bel en iemand antwoord dadelik. Oom Charles, the father, answers on Floris's phone. Okay. Hy verduidelik dat Barry's nie teen Paul mag getuig nie. He's not allowed to testify or give witness against Theo. And that's how it's going to be. Okay? While he's on the phone, he sees the boy that stole his clothes walk closer to him. So he's like, what is this guy doing walking closer to me now? He asks, hy vertel ook vir Barry van Paul se kriminele record. He tells Barry about his dad's criminal record. He's like, what criminal record? He knows nothing of this. En dat het teen hom tel, it counts against him, and that he will be made out as an unreliable witness, 'n ongeloofwaardige getuie. Paul het 'n man in die kroeg doodgeslaan en tronkstraf gekry. He finds out this shocking information about his dad. His dad was in jail. What for? He killed a guy in a bar. He punched him and the guy died. Okay? That is something that Vera and Paul kept secret. The boy walking towards him is Philly Boyson. So on the one end, Boris is hearing this shocking thing on the phone, and here's the guys that stole his clothes walking towards him. So it's like a lot going on at once here. Why is he there? Hy's daar om jammer te sê. His dad forced him to come and say sorry. Hy het ook gesien dat hy gesien het hoe Boris amper verdrink het. He says, and I saw how you almost drowned last night. You must be careful of the sea. Hy was die persoon met die liggie. You say he was the person with the little light, the little torch. You only find that out there. Okay. By die huis, Boris obviously immediately confronts Paul with this information. That he knows about his secret. That he's a jailbird. But look how, again, he states it in a very pejorative, sort of aggravating way. And that he is a murderer. Okay, you're a murderer. That's why you went to jail. Paul has to confess. He says that he was in jail for 4 years. You need to know that. He hit a man in a bar. The man had bleeding on his brain. Okay, that's why you don't punch people, because they can die. And then you go to jail for murder. So you need to know this. This is like critically important. Okay. Baris verstaan nie hoekom Paul en sy ma nooit vertel het nie. And this is an interesting thing. Why did they never tell him? Okay. Surely he was at the age now where they could have told him. Baris said it lyk of hy sy pa se gene geërf het. So it looks like I've inherited your genes. And I'm going to walk the same road as you. I'm going to become an alcoholic. I'm going to end up in jail for something that I did. I'm just like father, like son. Again, part of his strategy to alienate and anger and hurt Paul. Baris gaan slaap en toe hy later buite toe loop staan die esel waarin Paul gewerk het vir later en die seetoneel is aan vlarde geslaan. That painting that was standing outside was cut into pieces, and what else is gone? The brandy in his mattress is gone. Okay, so that ends in quite a hectic space there. The brandy is gone. What is inside the brandy? Poison, remember? So that ends in quite a tense chapter. If you want these notes, you can get them in ebook format. Here they are. Here's the book. Okay, please buy the book. Order if you want hard copies, you can order from me. If you like to highlight, I prefer hard copies. If you want to highlight and write notes while you go through the stuff in class, pick up a hard copy. 6-book minimum order. Hope that helps. We'll see you soon for the next few chapters. I know it's taking long what we're doing. I think we're doing a good job here. Please like and share.